Dearest Spencer, sometimes in this bullshit life, I was going to say something clever.
Yeah.
Call it a charade, a charade. But you know what? Just bullshit. It's bullshit. Sometimes you,
Farce.
a farce. It is a farce. Sometimes in this farce of a life, you have things that don't go your way, and that's to be expected. But then sometimes, Spencer, you have things that set you in a rage and make you want to break your computer and quit writing forever.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember when I told you about a certain publication that went through and liked a bunch of my tweets?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, awesome. And they're probably going to accept my work, and I'm all happy, and there's no way they would reject me. And then months went by, and I have not heard from them. I heard from them, Spencer.
Yes.
Rejected.
Rejected.
And even worse, I looked on their Twitter that I unfollowed, and they tweeted just recently that they have 4 more open slots.
Oh.
So that made me think, perhaps it is all a ruse, and what these folks do, they get people who submit to them, and then they go look up their social media and like a bunch of their stuff. So you will follow them and also think you have a shot. And then after they reject you, you'll go, oh, I'll submit again and pay the submission fee over and over and over because they like my stuff. Why wouldn't I?
Scam.
Caleb's not playing that game. But that was one of those things. It felt like a sure thing, and then I got rejected, and I'm like,
well,
that hurts.
How was the rejection? Was it a
generic?
Generic.
Oh, it was fucking generic. Thank you, Kurt. I still can't believe that guy called us Kurt. Like, what do you think you're going to get on the show?
He called you Kurt.
Tell me, Kurt. Okay. So, yeah, that sucked. And then I have a story I really like that I put to some major publications.
Okay.
And one of them was the Missouri Review. The only problem is this is an absurdist story. I think we talked about it on the air before, but it's not like a literary story. It's funny. It's clever. It's written in a entertaining way for how stupid the subject matter is. It is a Kafka-esque Seinfeld episode.
Okay.
Is what I would probably describe it as. I really liked it. And I expected that the Missouri Review, because they're more of a high esteemed, I figured probably going to reject it, but I at least want to get some eyes on it and, get it to some places. It's like 8,000 words, so it's hard finding a place that takes that length and that style. So I submitted to the places I thought would be a good fit for it, but some of them were just, a little high hopes. So like the Missouri Review, they got back to me finally. They rejected it, but it was a personal rejection, and they said the writing was really good and there was a lot of imagination, and they want me to submit again in the future. So score on that, kind of like the one rejection I got where they just didn't have a fit for it. Like this one, I think, again, just a piece. But I have a more serious story I'm working on. Once I finish that, I'll probably submit to them. And hopefully, because if they like my writing style, then hopefully they'll like the story. So that's about all the news for me. Rejections, and rejections. But on the plus side, Spencer, I got accepted in the New Yorker. And then I woke up from my awful dream, and I realized there is no such thing as hope. It is just a manifestation of the bullshit that we trick ourselves into believing to make sure we stay alive, working these mundane 9-to-5 jobs where we cry at home and then we watch TV to take our minds off of the awfulness. And that's about it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
At some point, you go out and get something to eat. That's about it. So any news on your end?
No, past couple of days, I've maybe every other day, I've been able to squeak out like 100 words here, maybe almost 200 there. Nothing like crazy, but it's like that short window I have like from after getting home from work and it's something neat and cleaned up, and then before I fall asleep on the couch.
So 20 minutes.
Yeah,
this week has been disappointing. Maybe it started on the weekend. I don't remember. All of a sudden, I got in a writing funk, but not like a normal writing funk. More of the, I just don't feel like writing. Like, I just didn't want to be creative. And I think I blame a certain book I've been reading.
Yeah.
Not going to go into it anymore, but it's been so goddamn daunting that it's just taken all the, because I haven't even been reading that much, because it's just taken all the fun out of my life at this point.
Well, honestly, I think that's also the problem. For me, it's different. It's a better one than yours, I suppose. But like, not only am I in the midst of a good novel that I'm enjoying, but also like a good show.
Ooh,
yeah.
What's the show?
Billions.
Never heard of it.
It's a Showtime show. It's like Paul Giamatti and Daniel Lewis. He was like the redheaded guy from like Homeland, the other Showtime show, and
I don't have Showtime.
and Dreamcatcher from back in the day.
Oh, okay.
But it's like that guy. He's a billionaire, like stock exchanger, working the market, kind of doing shady shit. And Paul Giamatti, like whatever, like the district attorney, like one of those higher like attorneys that like works for like this, for the state. And so he's like that's like the cat and mouse of trying to get each other, and then also he's trying to become like a governor and different, move up the political ladder and stuff like that. And also his wife is a shrink that works at the company of the billionaire guy. So it's a whole bunch of just like that.
That was way too long of a synopsis for a show I'm never going to watch.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the name of it already. Billionaires?
No, just billions.
Billions? Okay.
It's good.
Don't expect me to watch it.
No.
You know what we started watching? It was either... It's so sad. I don't even remember if it was yesterday, the day before. Like, I don't know what's going on. But
one of them weeks.
We started watching a show, Spencer.
Okay.
Me and the missus. You won't guess.
I won't?
Come on, knock on our door.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we started watching the original Three's Company. And you know what? Just watching the first episode fucking holds up.
Yeah?
Still funny.
Now, do you think... How quick would that show get canceled now for a straight man trying to act gay to...
First episode.
Like,
yeah. It
wouldn't last, no matter how good it is. And if it did, they would they get canceled for the landlord people because that guy just like, gays.
Mr. Roper. Actually, is it Mr. Furley that came along later, Dong Knotts? That's what most people think of.
Maybe, I don't know.
He's the goofy one, but Mr. Roper was the original. Regardless, I've been watching that, and I only watched one episode. I'm not saying I'm watching that. I'm not going to watch any more of that because it's one of those things. I wanted to do stuff, and then I was like, I watched a little Three's Company one. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember loving the show. And you know what? Oh, why can't I think of his name all of a sudden? Fucking John Ritter.
Yeah.
No, I fucking spaced out on that. John Ritter, physical comedy was up there, man, with the best of them. He was so good. It was a great show. Holds up. And you know what? I always liked Joyce DeWitt more than Suzanne Summers. Never was into the blondes so much.
And she was like super dumb.
Yeah, she was real dumb. I don't like the blonde bimbo stereotype. So anyway, folks, we have a special Irish episode for St. Pat. It's gonna be after St. Patty's Day when this drops, right?
Yeah,
probably.
By almost a week.
Yeah. So when we go on break here, I'll find an episode about Irish people or something for us to do. Until then, enjoy the space music, or you know what? I wish I get a synthesized version. Come on, knock on our door. Like, that'd be great. Top of the morning to you. I don't even want to do a shitty Irish accent. I hate it. Man. Except for when I do the James Joyce fart fiction. I like that.
Oh my God, you should do. That's what this episode should be.
Just James Joyce. We already have an episode dedicated to that.
I don't think it was dedicated. I think it was just
That's what happened.
A partial snip of it. But I think
I'll bring it up at the end of the episode. Will that satisfy you? For you, we've done that a couple times now. I've read that on multiple episodes at this point. For you folks who don't know, and who are not in the know, this is the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast, and we had an episode. I don't know if it was dedicated, but James Joyce has some saucy love letters to his significant other at one point in his life, and they had a good bout of flatulence in them, and they were great. I am your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Galloway Gooch Grinder Church.
Ooh, ow.
I just came up with that because I had a different name for you, but then you said it's got to be Irish because we're doing St. Patty's Day.
That sounds like it hurts.
And I'm also drinking a very giant beer. That's like, what, 32 ounces of beer? It's like a Pepsi bottle of beer. It's
that's what it looks like. That's how like
black.
Yeah, thick it is. That's what it looks like. You just have a big thing of Coke in there.
It's a delicious Murphy Stout, doubled up. I put 2 in there. Fill it up.
Doesn't taste like a cough drop.
No, why would it taste like a cough drop?
That's what a cough medicine or whatever that last one you had.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that. You keep bringing up things I don't want to talk about. Stop it. Off air, Spencer had some choice words for me about a book I was trying to finish, and I'm like, shut up, Spencer.
The book that shall not be named?
Yeah, I literally just blocked it out so hard that I didn't know what you were talking about. I was like, what are you fucking talking? And I was like, oh, no. And then it came back, rip-roaring back to me.
You had a physical reaction to it.
Oh, it was bad. So anyway, for St. Patrick's Day, even though this will drop after, I thought, because we've covered Irish things many times, I think now. We've been on air for 39 years?
46?
Something. I don't know. We went back in time at some point, so I think that erased some years. We I don't know, something with the Tesseract. I don't remember what the fuck you were doing. You were drunk. Speaking of drunks, no, that's another negative stereotype. I'm Irish, I can say it. So we are going to be talking about 15 books by Irish writers you should read right now, Spencer. Brother. So you want to jump into this list, or do you want me to just ramble on more? It's up to you. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
You're the host.
Whatever you want to do. Also, folks, I'm going to bring this up. This is a DBS episode, I think. Yeah. When we were off air, because I have an Irish tin flute that I have next to the globe that I use to pick Spencer's stupid weekly name from. I started playing said tin flute. Nice little jig music. Thought he was going to start kicking. He started twerking.
You told me to jig, so I jigged.
That was you just started twerking, and it was bad. You're so stiff. He just bent over halfway at the waist and put his rump in the air, filled the whole place with an odor. Yeah. And you know what? I was disturbed. That did happen. I wish I had a video of that. I will post my big beer on Instagram probably. I don't know if I will. Well, I didn't get a video of your twerking unless you want to do it again.
That we shouldn't put people through that. That's what the OnlyFans are for.
Yeah, that's true. The Gooch Grinder, Galloway. Spencer's over here just drinking a full bottle of whiskey. So straight Irish whiskey.
Yep.
Actually, I don't think about it. I could have drank some of that Writer's Tears whiskey I have. I think that's Irish whiskey. And it's good.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't because remember I broke the cork off it and I can't open it.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking jerks. So 15 books by Irish writers that we should read now, Spencer. I would like to make one distinction. This always grinds my gears. Whenever we talk about the greatest Irish authors, books, all that nonsense, it's always like James Joyce, Samuel Beckett, and that's about the end of that list. I mean, there's like Oscar Wilde and a bunch of other people, but that's the main ones that are always at the top of the heap. And then you also have works like even modern works like Angela's Ashes and things that are popular. But here's my problem, Spencer. We consider these Irish authors, right?
Yeah.
Because they're Irish. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. So say you had a Japanese author, got real popular, but they only write in English. Would you consider them the greatest Japanese author of all time? They don't write in Japanese at all. Can't speak Japanese.
Oh, can't even speak Japanese.
Yeah.
But they live over there?
They're born and raised in Japan. They're Japanese, full-blooded, born and raised.
But they don't write in it.
Don't write in it, can't speak it.
Oh, that seems weird.
Or if they do speak it, very little. They're not fluent. Or even if they are fluent, they just choose not to.
Yeah, they don't put their work out in it.
But for the sake of this argument, don't speak it at all. Would you say they're the greatest Japanese author? Do it with Russia. Born and raised in Russia. Say Dostoevsky, if he only wrote in English, couldn't speak Russian, couldn't write in Russian, couldn't read Russian. Would you say he was the greatest Russian author? No, you would not. So why is it James Joyce, who could not read Irish, could not speak Irish, did not write in Irish, is considered the greatest Irish author?
But he was born over there.
Born and raised there. Yeah. And his greatest works created when he lived abroad, not in Ireland. Samuel Beckett, another Irishman, I don't know if he could speak or read Irish, but I believe he only wrote in English. So, Spencer, as we talked...
Do you think maybe that's done for, like, sale reasons?
Well, that and because the English took the Irish culture away and they weren't allowed to speak Irish, and it just pretty much died off for a while. Here's where I'm at, Spencer. This is controversial because most people don't know, but I have talked about him many times on the podcast. Martin O'Kane, I would say, is the greatest Irish author because he only wrote in Irish, and he spoke Irish. And even if he did speak English, I can't find video proof of it. He only spoke in English in Irish as far as I know. I'm pretty sure he could speak English, but he just chose, as an Irishman, a proud Irishman, to speak Irish. Going by that, who would you say the greatest Irish author is? It's a very tough one because, while Joyce is brilliant, he wrote in English, not his native tongue.
So yeah, but though, like you said, though, that is kind of it's kind of funky because of how
their culture was taken away.
Yeah. And in the other examples, I find it so odd that they live in a country like the Russia, like they live there their whole life, but can't speak or
But
write
that's what happened to Ireland.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like that's a reason though. If they just
Well, say they lived on a part of Russia that was taken over by some other place, and they weren't able to speak the language.
Well, I guess maybe would, especially like with those kind of things. I know at least with Russia, a lot of it has to do with like the writing style, kind of.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, that's another good point, though.
If in Ireland or like, you know what I mean, if they have that kind of, you know what I mean.
Well, that's the thing that's really interesting that you brought up. So in Ireland, like a lot of Irish authors, they're very celebrated for their wit, the Irish humor, their turns of phrases, the very unique phrases, word usage, and the melodic quality of the writing. A lot of Irish authors have a very pronounced rhythm in their writing, and that comes from the Irish language, because even if they don't speak Irish, it still bleeds over. It's weird. It's like a blend of the old world and the new. Even though they were forced to speak English and write in English, that still was like a holdover, like their sayings and the way they carry on conversations and the stories they tell and the whole attitude. Still very Irish, but it changed. I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's very strange. I just think it's a very touchy topic, I would think, because like I said, most people pick James Joyce as the most celebrated, famous Irish author, and I disagree because he didn't write in Irish.
Yeah.
It would be different if no one wrote in Irish. Like there was no Irish writers that were celebrated because there's no Irish writers that wrote in Irish or spoke Irish, but there are. Because Martin O'Kine's the most famous one I know of, but I'm sure there are others.
Yeah.
I think even now there's authors, because I've looked like at Irish books, there's authors now that they only write in Irish. Or they're trying to bring it back.
So would they not like let their books be like translated, or do they?
Oh, they could be translated. Yeah,
but
obviously the Martin O'Kine books I read are all translated. Like the Japanese books, I would imagine some things are lost in the translation.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Well, since I've been studying, I study Irish and Japanese, I can just tell from the grammar structure a lot is probably lost in the translation. Also, like in Irish, for a simple example, I think just the letter A or word A, like, he ran down a bank or something. There's no A in Irish. Like there's like a letter for A, but I mean, as far as just the word, there's just no A. So there's like a lot of little things like that. So you can't ever have a direct translation of something, So anyway, going back to the books, I just thought that was an interesting topic. I don't know if you find it as interesting as I do, but it does bring up a good thought process there of what constitutes a nationality as great writers.
Yeah, I was gonna say it loses a little bit of, it gets fuzzy when the Irish example, but just in general of like.
Well, I would imagine Africa would be another whole continent, but a lot of African countries you could probably do that with.
Yeah,
because they, colonialism, and even maybe India. Like a lot of people, I think, celebrate Salman Rushdie as the greatest Indian author. I would imagine. If you think about it, like he's not writing in Hindu or whatever. Mm-hmm. He lived in England a lot of his life, U.S. Just when you think of Salman Rushdie, I really don't think Indian, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but I would imagine people celebrate him as one of the top.
I was gonna say, like, what happens, like, if you get like a foreigner or something, they come over to America, they get a visa, whatever, they move here, and then they become like a really good writer. It's like, are they an American writer because they've been living here for the past like 10 or 15 years? Or are they like a Europe writer? Like you know what I mean? Like someplace over there. Like, that'd be interesting. I wonder how,
Well, going back to the Japanese, if we use Haruki Murakami as an example, he speaks English, he translates works to English. What if he moved to the U.S. and became a citizen? You wouldn't say he was an American writer.
Yeah.
But then if he just started, I don't know. That's we're getting into the weeds now, but I would like to look more into that to see like different countries' top celebrated authors and see how many actually write and speak that language.
Or even how many places even have a person.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine most places do if they have writing.
I mean, or at least have somebody that's not like a couple 100 years old.
Well, yeah, that's a different one. Fucking cold, man.
Get your blanket or something so your nips don't get so cold.
I'm gonna get my blanket. My nips are getting cold. Tell the folks about your Patreon.
My Patreon with the gooch grinder.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gooches being grinded or grinded.
That's gonna pay for your own.
Grounded. A lot of gooches being grounded.
See, I know when I drink this fucking beer though, I'm gonna get hot. I always do. I don't know why it's fucking cold out here. I probably got fucking COVID again or something.
Well, it's
SARS.
Well, we're like partially in the ground down here too.
Yeah, we're in the fucking sub-basement. Subterranean
So
podcast studio.
That doesn't help.
It's the only way to keep the Tesseract intact.
Yeah.
I like the way I said that. Tesseract intact. So anyway, folks, since we rambled so much, you came here for the 15 books by Irish blah, blah, blah. You get it.
You've read the title. You know what it is.
You know it. I might change the title. I don't even know at this point. So, Spencer, do you want to know a book?
Yes.
Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. You want to know what that's about?
Trespassing someplace.
Amid daily reports of violence. Ooh, that's a weird name. Kushla lives... I feel like at this time in the history of the world, you shouldn't say that's a weird name anymore.
You're right.
You just shouldn't say that's a weird name. I come across with people all the time that think I have a weird name. Amid daily reports of violence, Kushla lives a quiet life with her mother in a small town near Belfast. Oh, man, this is one of these I got to click on more. Oh, now it got way longer. By day, she teaches at a parochial school. I don't know what that is. At night, she fills in at her family's pub. Well, I like that. There she meets Michael Agnew. I love the name Agnew. It's one of my top names. Agnew, Abernathy. Oh, what's another good one? Those are my two probably A names, Agnew and Abernathy. There was another one. I can't remember. We don't need to go there. So anyway, Agnew's a barrister who's made a name for himself defending IRA members. Against her better judgment, Michael was not only Protestant, but older and married. Kushla lets herself get drawn in by him in his sophisticated world, and an affair ignites. Okay. So a backdrop of the IRA. I'm actually interested in that one. Is it like a forbidden love story? Yeah. An Irish take on a forbidden Romeo and Juliet romance.
That's one thing that that does interest me whenever I see like movies or shows dealing with the IRA over there. That's like that stuff always like interests me. I don't probably know nowhere near enough of the actual.
I mean, essentially, it was like a civil war that tore. Yeah. You know what? If you want a good example of the IRA and how it affected people without being about it at all, watch the movie The Banshees of Inisherin.
Okay,
it's a new movie. It was actually up for a bunch of Oscars. Lost them all, I think. Great. I watched it a couple months ago. It's one of my favorite movies this year. It's really, really good. It's about a guy, Colin Farrell, and his buddy, an older gentleman, they drink every day at 2:00. They go to the pub. They live on the small island in Ireland. And his buddy's just like, I don't want to be friends with you no more. Just randomly. And he's like, what? And he tries to figure, basically it's a representation of the IRA, like in the Irish independence and the Civil War of the country and brother fighting brother. That's pretty much what the story is, but it's boiled down to just these two guys. And it gets so hardcore where the guy's like, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to cut off my finger and throw it to you. And he's a fiddle player, so he has to have his finger. And he does. And it just gets real out of hand. And it was really funny, real sentimental. And I really, really liked it. But yeah, it was a good representation of like how stupid. And then like even the ending, I don't want to give away, but it like kind of sums up the whole matter. But again, it's one of those allegories. It's like if you don't know anything about that, you wouldn't get it at all. You just think it's a fun story or whatever. So next up on the list, Spencer, motherfucker. Ooh, All Down Darkness Wide by Sean Hewitt. And I don't know if you know this, but Irish people, they have the fancy A with the thing over it.
Yeah.
And Sean. It's not just Sean. It's Sean. It's a Sean. Whoa, that's like Italian.
Yeah, that ain't right.
All Down Darkness Wide is a perceptive and unflinching meditation on the burden of living in a world that too often sets happiness and queer life at odds, and a tender and honest portrayal of what it's like to be caught in the undertow of a loved one's deep depression. So that's interesting. And because it's an Irish book, there's themes of Catholicism and everything else in there. I can't read all of it because these are big paragraphs. I don't have time for all this shit. Just check out the books yourself if you're interested. Next up, Out of Love by Hazel Hayes. Hazel Hayes does not sound like an Irish name to me.
It does not.
Out of Love begins at the end. A couple calls it quits after nearly 5 years, and while holding a box of her ex-boyfriend's belongings, the young woman wonders, how could they have spent so long together? When did they fall out of love? Were there good times before the bad? I notice a trend here with these. It seems to be, no matter the backdrop, these are all love-related stories.
I didn't say it seems that way, which I wouldn't think anyways, But then again, I haven't read a lot of Irish specific kind of
Yeah, you need
stories.
to get on that, but we'll get you Japanese stuff out of the way
Yeah.
first. Also, Spencer, fun fact I learned today, actually. It's not a fun fact at all. It's horrible. Ireland did not outlaw the woman is the man's property
Oh yeah.
in court. Like the law that, if you're getting divorced or something, the husband can sue you. Like if a woman leaves and has a lover, he could sue you because you're his property. They didn't outlaw that until 1981.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little behind the times there, Ireland. Next up, we have The Searcher by Tana French. No, come on with the name. No, I remember we did an Irish list one time, and I couldn't pronounce any of the names. And now we got Tana French. Oh, despicable. What if they're all not Irish writers, just Irish books?
Maybe.
No, that's not it. But that would piss me off. Cal Hooper thought a fixer-upper in a bucolic Irish village would be the perfect escape. His name's Cal Hooper, and he's an Irish village. Like, what is going on here? I get that not all Irish names are super Irish, but I feel like these modern authors here are trying to make sure they don't have Irish names or very strong Irish names. So after 25 years in the Chicago police force and a bruising divorce, he just wants to build a new life in a pretty spot with a good pub where nothing much happens. So that explains Cal Hooper. I'm a jackass. I judged this book too harshly when the guy is apparently from Chicago. So Cal Hooper is a perfect name for a guy who maybe just moved to Ireland. Or he just said Irish village. Maybe he's in America. I guess I'll have to read on this one. But when a local kid whose brother has gone missing, armed twists him into investigating. Cal uncovers layers of darkness beneath his picturesque retreat and starts to realize that even small towns shelter dangerous secrets.
That one seems interesting.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good. A Week in Winter. Okay, now we've gotten it. I can't pronounce this. A Week in Winter by Maeve Binchy? Maeve Binchy. I'm going to say it's Maeve. It could be Mauve. It could be Meave. Stonybridge is a small town on the west coast of Ireland where all the families know each other. When Chicky Star decides to take an old decaying mansion set high on the cliffs overlooking the windswept Atlantic Ocean and turn it into a restful place for a holiday by the sea, everyone thinks she is crazy. Helped by a rigger, a bad boy turned good who is handy around the house, and Orla, her niece, Stonehouse is finally ready to welcome its first guest. I always wanted to be able to buy an Irish mansion over a cliff.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? Also,
The only thing that beats that is the castle. I mean, I know they probably didn't have a lot of them over there, but
they had lots of castles.
Oh, did they?
Mainly in Scotland, but Ireland does have castles. No, Spencer. Here's my top list of giant houses.
Okay.
1, castle.
Yes.
Clearly. 2, not mansion, manor.
Oh, yeah.
Manor.
Yeah,
People often overlook the manor.
That's what Batman had.
A manor.
Yeah, Wayne Manor.
You need a manor. 3rd, I would say mansion. Mansion's just rich people. Manor is wealth.
Yeah.
For those who don't know the distinction, I just made that up, but I think it's true. It sounds true.
It's like that generational wealth.
Though, I don't know if you've noticed, but in our local area of Pennsylvania, there's a lot of manors, and they're all projects.
Yeah.
They're where the low end of society has to move because they don't got the money.
Or like, do you like how like every once in a while they try to throw a mansion around here and it's like, no, that's just a bigger house with 2 floors.
They always do have like the little spiral thing. What do they call it? They're not a spire. The tower, the pointy. It's like a round room and it's pointy. I always wanted one of those. I used to live next to a house that had one of those, and I went in that house one time when I was little because the girls that lived there were in my class, and I went in there and I was like, it was like a reading nook.
Oh,
and like one of those
nice.
little. I was like, oh, I would love this, but I was poor. I didn't get that. I was lucky I even had a window. Next up, The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Now we're getting Irish with it. Maggie O'Farrell.
That almost sounds like a slur.
People are gonna fucking like the Irish people listen to this. Well, Irish people could take a joke though, but still, I just feel like these fucking assholes. They're judging our Irishness by our names. Like, yes we are, because people don't know my real last name, Kennedy. No, it's not Kennedy. Oh, that's the wrong Kennedy. Don't do that. You don't need to know what Spencer did. Maggie O'Farrell brings the world of Renaissance Italy to jewel-bright life in this unforgettable fictional portrait of the captivating young Duchess Lucrezia de Medici as she makes her way in a troubled court. That doesn't sound Irish at all. the most Irish name we probably came across so far, and her book is about Italy. I already apologize to this person because I'm not going to pronounce this name right. The book is A Pyragon, a novel. I think that's how you pronounce that, A Pyragon, by Colin McCann. From the National Book Award winning and best-selling author of Let the Great World Spin comes an epic novel rooted in the unlikely real-life friendship between two fathers. It's weird how some of these have very descriptive, overly long synopsises, and then some of these have like a paragraph that explains nothing. Next up, we have Notes to Self by Emily Pine. Now, Emily, while doesn't sound like the most Irish name, Emilie.
The way it's spelled?
Spelled in a fancy way. I don't know if that makes it more Irish or not. Irish people spell things weird. They put too many letters that don't need to be in there. Emily Pine speaks to the events that have marked her life, those emotional disruptions for which our society has no adequate language, at once bittersweet. Clandestine and ordinary, she writes with radical honesty on the unspeakable grief of infertility, on caring for an alcoholic parent. And there's more taboos about women's bodies and sexual violence and a lot of other hard subjects in this book. You know what, Spencer?
What?
Here's another topic real quick. If you have an Irish American author, so say your first generation, like your parents were like they moved here. So what does that make you? A second generation Irish?
Yeah.
You're Irish through and through, but you're born in America and the rest of your family's born in Ireland. If you and say you have dual citizenship and you live in Ireland, or I mean, you could move to Ireland. Does that make you an Irish author, even though you're born in America? Or born in England, wherever.
Maybe depends on what you're writing about and how much time you spend there.
I think it goes with what you identify as.
Probably. I mean, yeah.
And how much people were willing to go along with it.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Like if the Irish people was like, nah, fuck you. You just lived in Boston your whole life. That don't count. Now we have, Spencer, I think I've heard of this one. Normal People by Sally Rooney. Normal People is the story of mutual fascination, friendship, and love. It takes us from the first conversation to the years beyond in the company of two people who try to stay apart but find that they can't. Sounds like a love story.
It does sound like a love story.
Next up, Too Close to Breathe by Olivia Kiernan. Olivia Kiernan's tautly written debut novel immerses readers in a chilling murder case. And the tantalizing, enigmatic victim at the center of it all in a quiet Dublin suburb. With her in a quiet Dublin suburb within her pristine home, Eleanor Costello is found hanging from a rope. Detective Chief Superintendent Frankie Sheehan would be more than happy to declare it a suicide. But as the investigation goes on, things pop up.
Yeah. Murder.
The Lesser Bohemians by now we got a name. Eimear. I'm gonna say Eimer. By Eimer McBride. One night, an 18-year-old Irish girl recently arrived in London to attend drama school meets an older man, a well-regarded actor in his own right. While she is naive and thrilled by life in the big city, he is haunted by more than a few demons, and the clamorous relationship that ensues risk undoing them both. A captivating story of passion and innocence, joy and discovery, set against the vibrant atmosphere of 1990s London over the course of a single year. Again, another one that's not set in Ireland. But these are the greatest Irish books of modern time. I don't know, it just said you got to read them now.
What about Joyce did a lot of his stuff?
Almost all his work, if not all of it, was set in Dublin. Dublin, which was pretty much like the London of Ireland, which means that or New York City for you Yanks who don't know the cultural significance of a London or a Dublin. It has more that you'll see black people there.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just put it that way. When you go to Whitey Town, that's where you'll find people that aren't white, is in those big cities. I don't know. We gotta be racist, Spencer.
I like how your mug's bigger than your coaster.
I know, and it's a problem. I have to get it just right, or it'll topple over and cause a mess. This one sounds right up your alley. The Heart's Invisible Furries. It's not furries. I read that wrong. The Heart's Invisible Furies.
Sorry. Freudian slip there.
I didn't realize there was only one R, not two. It looks like furries.
It's got fairies on the mind.
That would have been a better book. This is by John Boyne. Born out of wedlock to a teenage girl cast out from the rural Irish community and adopted by a well-to-do, if eccentric Dublin couple via the intervention of a hunchback redemptionist nun. Cyril is adrift in the world, anchored only tenuously by his heartfelt friendship with the infinitely more glamorous and dangerous Julian Woodbread. It's not going to be Julian, it's Julian. Sorry. That's Spanish on the brain.
I kind of like Julian the better, though.
Julian. This would be if he was a Spaniard. Julian. That's why I know my Spanish has been going good, because now I'm accidentally slipping the J's into H's. I wonder if the writers themselves came up with these synopsis or blurbs, because that seems like a book I don't know if I would want to read, just because it's very not overwritten, it's just mouthful. Mm-hmm. So very verbose, I think. Not bad. I don't know. Only because I've been reading this fucking... Mr. Alan Moore has kind of tainted my desire to read difficult, wordy works.
I was going to ask you off air, like, do you think this is if Jerusalem put a wrench in your plan of reading these multiple mega books this year?
No, because I think like the Iliad and stuff will be a good palate cleanser, because that's not difficult. The language isn't... I don't know. I just think it'll be all right. Hopefully. Like I said, I'll read some Murakami, and I got that other Japanese book I picked up. I might read that too before I get into the other stuff. I haven't decided. Next up, Love by Roddy Doyle. Two old friends reconnect in Dublin for a dramatic, revealing evening of drinking and storytelling in this winning new novel from the author of the Booker Prize winning Patty Clark. Ha 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 ha. I probably would read that just because that sounds like a fun... Like, I just like people telling stories in the pub.
Yeah.
It's probably good. That sounds very Irish. Next up, Netherland by Joseph O'Neill. Hans van der Broek stumbles upon the vibrant New York subculture of cricket. I didn't think that was a thing. Where he revisits his lost childhood and, thanks to a friendship with a charismatic and charming Trinidadian guy from Trinidad named Chuck Ramekissoon, begins to reconnect with his life and his adopted country. That one's set in New York. When I read Japanese books, I'll ask this as a question to you, Spencer. I'll throw this your way. If you read a Japanese book, would you feel a little bit disappointed if it's not set anywhere in Japan? At least at some point in the book.
Yeah.
Like you read a Japanese...
No, is that just from a Japanese author?
Yeah, like Haruki Murakami, you picked up a book and it's set in fucking San Francisco.
I was going to say, well, just because, like, you know, with like the Iwata series, you know, it's not written by a Japanese person, but it's like the first one's set in Japan, and then the second one, you know, is in like America,
and Mexico. But Nicholas Obregon is a British Spaniard and lives in the U.S. and Spain and Portugal, wherever the fuck he goes. He's in... right now, he went to Buenos Aires, which I was like, oh, man, he's posting the most famous bookshop that I always wanted to go to. He was in there, and then now he's in Uruguay or Paraguay or Uruguay. He's all over the place.
All the ways.
And I'm just like, dude, you're living the life, man. And he's like, the meat down here, man. And he's telling me, he's like, you get the meat. And I'm like, I know you get the meat. Why you gotta tell me that?
You don't think I know about the meats? I know all about the meats.
He's like, you get the meat. It's so cheap, but it gets so much.
It just turned into this weird Seinfeld episode. It's like, you don't have to tell me about the meats. I know about the meats.
I know about the meats. You don't have to tell me about the meats. It's delectable. Deliciously delectable. Next up, we have The Sea by John Banville. In this luminous new novel about love, loss, and the unpredictable power of memory, John Banville introduces us to Max Morden, a middle-aged Irishman who has gone back to the seaside town where he spent his summer holidays as a child to cope with the recent loss of his wife. These are very common topics in Irish society, at least from the books I've read. Martin O'Kyan has some short stories that were set near the sea, the west of Ireland, where he mainly wrote about, because that was more rural Ireland. Still is. And a part of me is just very touched by that work. I like that kind of stuff. Because they're small stories, you know? We were so used to these, like, fucking Alan Moore shit. Like, such big, grand adventures and all these huge ideas. But sometimes, like the movie The Banshees of Inisherin, you can tell these small stories about individuals with very relatable, common problems.
Yeah.
And I like that stuff. Not all the time. Sometimes you want the big adventures. You want your Marvel movies. You want whatever. But sometimes you just want something that's just like, hey, I know what that's like. I went through that. You know, you want something small that doesn't really matter in the big picture of things. Doesn't matter to anyone that's not involved.
Like a slice of life kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Next up, we have nothing because that was the end of the list. Wow.
Ooh.
That was the top. Okay, you know what we'll end with, Spencer? Oh, actually, I know what we're going to end with, so we won't end with just yet.
Okay.
I just want a quick list. Greatest Irish authors. No, that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do, and I'll just go by Google.
Because when's that ever wrong?
It's a big beer, dude. I'm not even halfway through it.
No, you're not.
I've been drinking it this whole podcast. So good when it just hits your lips, you know? So much foam. It's nitrous.
You finally got some of the head down.
Yeah, like when the head goes down. So we have, Spencer, do you want to guess? You want to guess all of them?
No.
Some will surprise you because I remember we did this a long time ago and I made a fool of myself and like Oscar Wilde wasn't Irish. Like I just was saying people weren't Irish because I didn't realize at the time they were Irish, but then even though they spoke English, lived in England, whatever. So number 1, James Joyce.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Oscar Wilde. Number 3, Samuel.
Which is a way better name.
Oscar Wilde is an awesome name. And he was a gay man who was punished harshly for his gayness. And that seems like the perfect gay guy name, I think. Or like a porn star name.
Yeah.
That's a poor taste, but that's what I believe. That's what I feel. Number 3 on this isn't in order, I'm just saying. Samuel Beckett. He's shown up a lot in this Alan Moore's Jerusalem. Actually, all these Irish authors for some reason have been in Jerusalem. So I think Alan Moore has some kind of affection for Irish authors. Obviously, he mimicked a lot of their work in here. Samuel Beckett, I believe, was a playwright. I think he had novels, but that explains why not only does he show up in the Jerusalem, there's a chapter that I haven't got to yet or I read already that's written as a play. That might be alluded to him. We have the James Joyce chapter. I just feel like, going through the list here. Here's one you might not know, Bram Stoker.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Here's one I didn't know, Jonathan Swift. I believe he's the one who did Gulliver's Travels.
Oh, okay.
William Butler Yeats. I knew Yeats was a dirty dog. I didn't know he was an Irishman. Oh. So Maeve. That's probably the name. Maeve Binchy. I didn't realize she was not necessarily a modern author. She passed away in 2012.
Oh.
She's born in 39. C.S. Lewis. I did not know C.S. Lewis. Chronicles of Narnia. I did not know he was an Irishman. Ruddy Doyle, Brendan Behan, John Banville, George Bernard Shaw, Seamus Heaney. Who would have thought Seamus was an Irishman?
Right, I mean, come on.
Frank McCourt, he did Angela's Ashes. Edna O'Brien, Emma Donahue, Sally Rooney, Anna Enright, John Millington. So this at least proves that list I read off of was some decent authors there, obviously. Colm Tobin, Marion Kay, Sean O'Casey, Trinity College Dublin. I don't know why that's on the list. Iris, it's hard to say Iris when you're thinking of Irish. Iris Murdoch, William Trevor, Lawrence Stern, Brian O'Nolan. Okay, and there's Tana French was on here. Colin McCann's on here. So pretty much everybody that was in that article is on this list. There's a lot. But those are the most famous ones I already mentioned. 20 minutes of that will get the fans excited. So as promised, Spencer, I'll read you some James Joyce love letters. Yes. Because I know how randy it makes you.
It does. It makes it easy. It makes the gooch grinding easier.
Yeah, I bet. James Joyce love letters. No, not love poems. Love letters. You
got to put the word "fart" in there. Farts.
There's a lot of since we came out with that episode, a lot of articles have been written about this now.
You think because of us, did we start it?
Dude, the Paris Review, high esteem the Paris Review. This is the headline on Google. It's the second article that pops up. So the first one, 13 not suited for writing or for work lines from James Joyce's incredibly dirty love letters. That's mental flaws. Next up, Paris Review, title, James Joyce's love letters to Nora Barnacle, his dirty little fuckbird. You got that as the headline. That's from 2018. That's not like a real old article. That's great.
That makes me want to read it.
All right, here's one. I'm just trying to find the actual letters, though. I don't want excerpts. I want the letters. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to read excerpts. Because this first one that came up is great.
We don't need a real long one, just a little something to get it going.
I need to find like some soothing music for this, or like some porno music or something.
I think the more elegant the music.
Yeah, real elegant classical music. All right, I'm going to read a bunch of these. Fuck it. We got 10 minutes to kill.
I'm just gonna move the mic away a little bit just so I don't blow the listeners' ears
I
out.
don't know if I can do this. I had this problem last time we read these. Because unlike the letter, this literally just starts with the bad parts.
just dives in.
All right. You had an arse full of farts that night, darling, and I fucked them out of you. Big fat fellows, long windy ones, quick little merry cracks, and a lot of tiny little naughty farties ending in a long gush from your hole. I read that one before.
I remember it, but it's still great.
It is wonderful to fuck a farting woman when every fuck drives one out of her. I think I would know Nora's fart anywhere. I think I could pick hers out. I think I could pick hers out in a room full of farting women. It is a rather girlish noise, not like the wet, windy fart, which I imagine fat wives have.
He's the kind of guy that would pay chicks on OnlyFans to fart in her jaw and mail it to him.
Yeah. It is sudden and dry and dirty like what a bold girl would let off in fun in a school dormitory at night. I hope Nora will let off no end of her farts in my face so that I may know their smell also. Oh, James Joyce, you dirty dog.
Is there a collection of can I buy a collection of these?
What I did last time was I downloaded a PDF of all of them.
Oh, man.
The whole letters, and that's what we were reading from, and I was just picking them out. That is so great. And it's, again, I mentioned this a long time ago. Why is his fart fiction better than most people's regular?
Right.
Well, not fart. That's just love letters. I always say fart fiction. It's not fiction. That's his real life. Those were letters he wrote to his dearest. Here's another one, Mother. Today I stopped short often in the street with an exclamation whenever I thought of the letters I wrote you last night and the night before. They must read awful in the cold light of day. He even knows they're fucking what a degenerate he is. Perhaps their coarseness has disgusted you. I suppose the wild filth and obscenity of my reply went beyond all bounds of modesty. What do you do if you get that letter, if you're that lady who's not a writer, and you have to respond to that, and it takes 6 weeks to mail? Like, what do you do?
Oh, man.
Okay. It was you yourself, you naughty, shameless girl, who first led the way. It was not I who first touched you long ago down at the Ring's End. It was you.
The Ring's End?
Those are the docks, I think.
But still, with the context, it does.
It was you who slid your hand down inside my trousers and pulled my shirt softly aside and touched my prick with your long tickling fingers, and gradually took it all, fat and stiff as it was, into your hand, and frigged me slowly until I came off through your fingers, all the time bending over me and gazing at me out of your quiet, saint-like eyes.
Oh, man.
Oh,
the balls it would take to send this.
Oh, he had the balls. My sweet little whorish Nora, I think it worse. Mm-hmm. My sweet little whorish Nora, I did as you told me, you dirty little girl, and pulled myself off twice when I read your letters. I am delighted to see that you do not like being fucked arseways. Oh, I'm sorry. I am delighted to see that you do like being fucked arseways. There's a distinction there. What were her letters, though? We never got that side.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's the response letters.
That's what I want. Fuck me if you can, squatting in the closet with your clothes up, grunting like a young sow grunting like a young sow doing her dung, and a big fat dirty snaking thing coming slowly out of your backside. Ew. Ew. Fuck me on the stairs in the dark like a nursery maid fucking her soldier, unbuttoning his trousers gently and slipping her hand into his fly and fiddling with his shirt and feeling it getting wet and then pulling it gently up and fiddling with his two bursting balls. And at last pulling out boldly the Mickey she loves to handle, and frigging it for him softly, murmuring into his ear dirty words and dirty stories that other girls told her and dirty things she said, and all the time pissing her drawers with pleasure and letting off soft, warm, quiet little farts. Why? What's with the piss and shits and farts?
Yeah, that's new.
Why was that all one sentence? It's too long. Good night, my little farty Nora, my dirty little fuckbird. There is one lovely word, darling, you have underlined to make me pull myself off better. Write me more about that in yourself, sweetly dirtier. Dirtier.
Oh, like, where are they? Like, how far away are they from each other? Like, what's going on? Like, why?
They lived in the fucking early 1900s, Spencer. You couldn't just get on the phone and be like, hey, sex and
But I
sex.
mean, like, why are they not, like, living together or, like...
I don't have the answers.
I like to think that they were actually married and together, and these are just letters that they write each other to
leave
leave
around the house.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever got married, honestly. There's comments on here. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sure they're great.
All right. That's enough of that. That never gets old.
No, it doesn't.
It's just like, oh, James Joyce, one of the greatest writers ever. Fucking
Dirty perv.
Artur. He's a great artist. He's a dirty pervert. What's with the farting? I never
especially back then.
Yeah, because like one, it's all hair down there.
Oh yeah,
like way too much hair, and the cleaning, like the bathing and that wasn't up to snuff. Like people weren't bathing daily. They probably weren't even bathing weekly. Maybe if they're rich, they did, but I don't. It wasn't a lot. Everything smelled, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But without the farts, everything smelled. And I just imagine toilet paper had the hunks of bark in it.
I just like
they just used an old spoon, like a teaspoon. I don't know what they did to clean themselves.
I just like the line of wherever, like, he could, in a room full of farting women, he could sniff out her farts.
Oh, good. And say what you want about Hemingway. He didn't have letters like that.
No, he didn't.
That is, I don't know if those came out when any of his contemporaries were still alive, but imagine if Hemingway was still alive and he read that. It's like, that fucking guy. Oh, I knew that guy. Maybe he was open with it. I don't know.
They were out drinking. He's like, you know what, guys? You know what I love? Just when a chick bends over and just farts right in my nostrils.
I love knocking the farts out of her. That is, I wonder if that's like an Irish thing that we don't know about. Maybe they love farting women over in Ireland. They're always doing things arse ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Europeans are weird. I know Americans are weird, but Europeans are weird.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Like, that's an Irishman. Imagine an Irishman in a fucking very Catholic time where everything was repressed and you couldn't do anything and women were property. Imagine what it was like in France.
Yeah.
With them perverts who are just openly sexual and doing all kinds of stuff and not shaving their armpits. What are they up to? Lots more farts.
Yo, way more farts.
Well, did he do things with the poop? He mentioned the poop, but did he do things with the poop? You think, was that too much? He didn't like his lady's ladylike, did he?
No.
Now, there was one that I read along when we did the one episode. It wasn't on there, but about, I think he was, there was two. One about doing something down at the docks. I think the word Mickey was used, pulling somebody's Mickey. But two, remember there was the one about him where he was very self-conscious about his wiener size, and he kept asking her, like some guy she met, if he had, or did, I don't know, if he had a bigger wiener. And like she was going on about that.
I was surprised in the one that you read about him just getting jerked off.
Yeah. Well, apparently Nora was a freak. Obviously, if she continued this liaisons with the with the tugging and the pooping and the farting and all that. I mean, what women's just openly, like, how does that start?
Yeah.
Does she accidentally during sex just let one out and then he's just like, yeah. She's like, oh, he likes that. Like, how does that go?
Especially, like we said, back then.
Back then.
Like now, like,
yeah. Everyone's all modest.
Like now, yeah, it makes complete sense. Like,
but even now, if you hooked up with a chick for the first time and she just started farting randomly, you'd be like, ugh. Like, or I mean, even if you're into it, you'd be startled. It'd be something that you weren't expecting. I mean, I would probably just banish her to the netherworld. Like, no, get out of my house, lady. That's gross. If I'm not doing it, you're not doing it.
Disgusting.
Fart in my face. Like,
you don't want my farts in your face, lady.
I'm going to reflect on that for a while after this. Still, though, great reads. If you folks can, read those letters. Anyway, happy St. Patty's Day. It's delayed when this episode drops, but that is okay because I'm here with Spencer, the Galloway Gooch Grinder Church, all the way from, I don't know, where Galloway, I guess, today.
Yeah.
If you want to check out his OnlyFans, where he probably grinding gooches and maybe a little farting now.
Yeah.
Do that. You can follow us at the DPW Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and what else? my website, calebjamesk.com. You can go on there and see what I'm up to. See how many fucking rejections. And I don't actually bitch about my rejections on there. I should just post a list.
Yeah.
One day, like, I've been rejected this many times, so don't feel bad. Takes this many times to get published. So anyway, find you a nice farting woman, and your life will be complete.